Here we are on episode 6D. That's right, 60 of the Trash Talk Business Podcast, where we talk about growing, scaling, building your junk removal dream. I'm Andy Weins. He's Casey Bubba Lawrence. Another amazing episode coming to you. We got a couple guests. Casey, what the hell are we talking about today?
Man, today we're going to talk about, I guess, a lot of cool shit with clothing and recycling and trash. We have two guests. Jessica Rennard, who scheduled on us last second a couple weeks ago, so she's in the shit list. And then we have Lisa Sciannella, like sayonara, but with Nutella. It's like sayonara, but with Nutella at the end.
We I'm Nutella.
There we go.
And Jessica's eating Nutella, no big deal.
So we're actually going to have her pronounce her last name for us.
Sciannella.
Yeah,
Sciannella.
Okay.
Sciannella.
Yeah, that's what.
Take it all.
There we go.
All the things. All right. So we actually know our guest this time. Like normal, again, we talk about this. Normal show prep is, hey, how do you say your last name? And press the button. And we did that this time. We still shit the bed. And by we, I mean Casey. However, we met Jessica. Shout out to Waste 360 Waste Expo. Jessica was there with business partner. What's your relationship with Homeboy? Best friend?
My 6-year-old son is dating his 6-year-old daughter.
Come on, hold on. That didn't. Casey, you good? Casey's good. Okay. All right. So we're no shit. There we are at the 40 under 40 awards ceremony, and the guy, I forgot his name because that's how much I pay attention.
Matt.
Jessica, Matt. There. See, good. Casey does the names. I do the numbers. It's kind of a dynamic duo. So Matt, I sat next to Matt, and him and I were talking, and then Jessica showed up. I was like, oh, hey, what's going on? And then Casey showed up, and then Jessica and Casey and Matt and I had a convo, and then we caught a couple awards, and now here we are. There we go. That is we are all caught up. Jessica's like, what are you doing with your clothes? And I told her. She's like, I like to take people's clothes. So I'm like, cool. We should talk about that because one of my focuses, and Casey's too, when he did junk removal, was how do we take product on the front end that we get paid to pick up, and then keep it out of the landfill. That's the end state, out of the landfill. And if we can make it cash flow positive or cash flow neutral, that's good. And even when it's cash flow negative, we know we're doing the right thing. And there's some things that take more time and effort and money than what they're worth. However, it's worth it to the environment because as junk removal business owners and operators, we are the frontline recyclers. It's our obligation to get out there and develop the best processes so we stay ahead of government regulation and the big boys in the waste industry, because over time they're going to start leaning on us to be the experts as landfill becomes more obsolete. So that's why we're here. So Jessica, Lisa, welcome to the show. How did you guys get here today? Like, why are we talking about trash? Why are you talking about trash?
So I can go first.
Okay,
Somehow in my career, I have always been in a position where it's been my job to monetize trash or unwanted items. I got my master's in nonprofit management, and my first job out of school was working for a nonprofit to sell what they couldn't give to their clients. And then I've always been in thrift stores and resale stores. Started a business in 2020 that was throwing excess inventory into mystery boxes, like with a team of 12 people. And then Helpsy kind of grabbed our whole team, and now we've joined forces, and we're all keeping clothes out of trash together. So I've worked with Lisa now for about a year and a half.
Like that. So Jessica's been in the industry for a while, and I haven't. I've been only in clothing and trash for like 2 years, but I felt like instantly in love with it. I love the nature and hiking, so doing something good for the environment and keeping stuff out of landfill is really important to me. I actually visited my first landfill not too long ago, and seeing the actual clothing and shoes like just popping out of the landfill and smelling the smells and seeing the buzzards is like very impactful.
There's nothing like the good old landfill smell to start
there's
your
nothing
day.
like it.
The sweet smell of success. That's what we call it here in the biz.
Especially when you get the
Especially-
landfill juice on you.
That's what I'm saying.
It was like
amazing.
squishy and
yeah.
But you know, like I read a lot about textile waste, and I mentioned to Casey or Andy. I mentioned I was up in Massachusetts, and part of why I'm up here is we're doing like an open house. We have a lot of like partners in Massachusetts that we love, but they banned textile waste. Were you guys aware of that?
I know no idea.
Talk to me. They banned putting textile waste into landfills in the state of Massachusetts.
Okay. Yes,
let's fucking go.
Yes, the first state to do it. And technically it passed November.
Actually, I think I saw Jessica forwarded or messaged or posted on LinkedIn about that.
Yeah. So we're hoping New York and California is.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of talk in New York. So Massachusetts passed, banned textile waste. So now there's a lot of businesses, brands, municipalities. It kind of impacts everybody who are looking for a solution, to offer their residents or their consumers or just the people of Massachusetts, like what to do with their textiles.
So here's what I love of what you said. So at the top of the show, I said this, and it's reigned true. I've been in this industry 14 years, and this is cyclical of a lot of industries, right? We start someplace. I'm going to take the craft brew industry. Okay, so pre-prohibition, it's like 4,000 craft breweries in the country. Okay, and then prohibition happened; they all went away. And then post-prohibition, only the major companies survived. Like Pabst, for example, did evaporated milk, and those companies innovated. But the companies that only did craft beer all died. And then for like 50 years in the market, from basically post-World War II until the 1990s, it was dominated by only the top players. And slowly trickled. You got a couple craft brewers here and there. Wisconsin, we're big into craft brewery. I know it's big out there in like Colorado and Denver has a lot of craft brewers, right? And only in the last 2 years now have we recovered where we have as many craft breweries as of like 2021 as we did in 1920s, right? So the point is, this is what happens in business. You have all these small independent businesses. You have the consolidation of major corporations. And over time, eventually, those break up and the small guys start taking over the market because the demand by the consumer is different. So if we look at what happened in the waste industry, pre-World War II is very localized. And then for 50 years, you had all these companies that got bought up by the big boys up until the 90s. That's how the waste management republics won. Like, they didn't go and just earn one customer at a time. They bought up all the small companies. And now what's happening, they're continuing to buy the small companies in GFL, Waste, Waste Connections. I keep saying Waste, I refer to WM. Waste Connections Republic, they're going to continue to be bigger. The challenge is, in the waste industry on the whole, the type of material they take is different. It's no different than Miller Lite, right? They're going to get their share for someone that wants to drink shit beer. That's a fact, Jack. However, for the people that want a more niche experience, there's going to be a place for the smaller independent businesses. And so that's why you guys are working, because what's happening is the consumers are demanding that textiles, for example, do not end up in the landfill. And so you've created a solution before the regulation came in place. And now the big boys are going to be looking to you to solve their problem. And I used to work for WM. WM got into the medical waste treatment, and they were competing with Stereocycle. And they realized, after lots of money, and this is all public information on their annual reporting, they realized over time they're really good at doing two things: running landfills and picking up MSW and municipal solid waste and SSRY, single stream recycling, curbside. They have struggled in the organics market. They have struggled in the medical waste market. And they're going to struggle in the recycling market because they don't have the infrastructure. And a lot of those relationships are very localized versus landfills where they're more centralized. And you can haul material, and it's like it's at the state level. So the opportunity you have, the two of you in your business, and the opportunity everybody here listening to the podcast have is, okay, if you can't take, like in Massachusetts now, and I'm fucking a huge fan of this, if you can't take textiles to the landfill, where are you going to take them? And for some, we know that things generally happen on the coasts first. Like you said, happening in Massachusetts, the goal is New York, not the hope. Hope is bullshit. The plan, right? Plan has teeth. The plan is New York and California next. And eventually it'll make it to the Midwest and then the South. That's how trends generally work in the waste industry. And so for people listening out there, this is the time to develop those relationships and solutions so that you stay out in front of your competition and out front of the big boys and also in front of regulations. So when the regulations do hit, i.e. people in Massachusetts, now you're not scrambling. I'm off my fucking soapbox. Let's get back to the show.
Well, actually, I'm going to interrupt you because you said the word competition a few times, and we are always asked who is our competition, as a sustainable solutions provider for consumers and brands. And our famous line is
China.
The trash. The trash is our
the landfill. Yeah,
the landfill is our only competitor.
Correct.
We have collaborated, and we will continue to collaborate with anyone that would traditionally be deemed our competition because we're just so authentic and true to like what we're here to do.
Yeah, so I actually sold a lot of clothing, and the biggest hurdle I had, because I noticed in junk removal, the one thing you get a lot of is old electronics and clothing. And I was like, man, if someone is taking old electronics, I know someone can take these clothes, not just the nonprofits, right? Because even, I know it may sound crazy, but even sometimes nonprofits are like, hey, we can't take any more clothes.
It's not crazy. They don't want it for a couple of reasons. One, they don't necessarily have the infrastructure, the labor to sort it and price it and store it. They don't want that.
Volunteers.
Yeah, so I had to look.
We actually work with a lot of nonprofits for that reason. They may take a couple of things that work for their clients or their specific niche, and then they're like, please take the rest. And, we buy it from them, and it gives them the, capital to do what they actually want to do.
Well, and that's the other thing is like the biggest thing I found was the most common is rags, right? Like, hey, you can find someone that'll take it, but they're just going to rag it all. They're going to take it all and they're going to shred it into rags. The problem with that is most of the stuff we were getting was definitely reusable, if not brand new or like new.
Right.
So then I was like, okay, well, how can we at least make it worth our time? So the bulk buyers we couldn't really do business with because they wanted too much at a time.
Right.
And then the smaller buyers were like, well, we only buy, this much at a time, but we need you to weigh them. I'm like, I'm not weighing shit. I'm not going to go get a scale just to weigh clothing.
Right. Yeah, we try to kind of really take all of those pain points and be like, don't do the sorting, don't do the weighing, just give it all to us.
So you just take it like a big Gaylord or something.
Whatever.
We always say when we talk to people is like, we don't discriminate against anything, right? Because we need to be the person where we can say yes all the time, because the nonprofits have to say no. The bulk buyers have to say no unless it's bailed or whatever. And so we found that niche and being like, the answer is just yes. Just what you have.
Because that was a big problem, because when you have so many things of clothing, and I had these 300-gallon totes and they'd be filled with clothing. So then I started, I would have a customer or a client or whatever, they would buy 2 per month at, I think, $350 per, right? And they would do all the sorting and everything, which was fine by me. But then I'd have like linens was the next thing, the next hurdle. How do I get rid of linens, blankets? A lot of places don't want blankets that have the polyester fuzz inside of it, because they can't give it to veterinary clinics because the animals could ingest it and it could kill them. So they're like, well, we only want sheets and towels. So I was like, okay, well then where do I get rid of these comforters? Where do I get rid of these old blankets? And then I had to find another vendor for that. So it was a lot of work. A lot of people who listen to this show, they always see the front side of things. They're saying, oh, that's awesome. You can make a lot of money doing this, this, and this. They don't see the back end and the actual resource or the research you have to do to make it efficient. Because, you can do a one-off and say, hey, this one company, they came in, they bought everything. Well, how many times are they going to do that? And how easy are they going to make it for you? And how easy will it be ongoing? So I know when you were talking about it, I haven't met Lisa, but I met Jessica, and you were talking about what you do, and I was just like, that's crazy, because the only person I talked to that was similar, they were actually in China, and I was having a conversation with them about all this stuff, but it was delayed. They're in China. Everything was just so out of my realm, logistic wise. They're like, oh yeah, we go through the port of Houston, and I'm like, so now I got to look at how do I get all this down to Houston. And I was like, this is just a pain in the ass.
And at that point, it's going to be trailers, right? So then you got to store it and
containers is just way over my head.
Yeah. So we actually work with a couple junk removal companies. We're hoping to expand that more because there is kind of like good synergy there.
And I met them at Waste 360. So there's another plug.
Yeah.
There you go.
And it's basically like, just give us anything. We'll pick it up. We'll even pay you for it. Like, we try to make it as easy as a one-stop shop.
What's the smallest container size you take? Or what's the smallest amount you'll come to pick up?
The smallest amount, depending on where it is geographically, is like 15 bags.
Oh,
so,
wow.
I mean, it's really
Well,
awesome.
in the beginning, you said something that resonated with what we do, which is, profit neutral or cost neutral or, for profit. So because
cash flow neutral.
Right. So we are a certified B Corp. So we're for purpose and profit. And our something that we talk about internally all the time is like, obviously we have to figure out how to do this profitably and purposefully and show, like, kind of be a pioneer for other businesses that want to be eco-conscious, but still, you have to be profitable in what you do.
Well, even a quote unquote nonprofits have to be profitable,
Correct.
right? Their executive directors and employees aren't
Have to get paid.
nonprofit, but they have to get paid, right? And that's a misnomer. I mean, if you look at Goodwill, for example, and Habitat for Humanity, those are both franchised models.
They're not nonprofits.
A lot of people don't realize that they're nonprofits. They have a portion of their business that runs. They have a portion of their business that runs as a nonprofit.
Oh yeah,
correct. So that's what I'm saying. So their Habitat, correct, the foundation. So Habitat, the nonprofit, is the rebuilding and repairing of the homes. Let me tell you something. That restore stores have to make profit. They have rent. They have employees. They have utilities. They have all those things. And so they have to make money because then that money gets funneled up to rebuild homes. So we have amazing Goodwill. That's what the franchise of Goodwill is in our area here, which is like Northern Illinois and Wisconsin. It's the largest of all Goodwill franchisees and has been for a number of years. And they do clothing washing. I used to be in the laundry industry for a couple of years, so it's weird that I know those things. And it's like what you see at the retail store is only a percentage of what they do, or they get grant money to train people that have special needs, so they get money from the state. Like the nonprofits of the world run like a for-profit business, and yes, people they are philanthropic. However, their wages are relatively competitive for the industry, and you have to get people that are behind the mission. Absolutely, at the end of the day, you have to monetize what you're doing. And that's the thing. So like with us, we've been working with a company for years, 7-8 years. I've been working with this company called Better Earth, and they take 8 Gaylords of our clothing at a time. And we ship out typically 8 Gaylords of clothing every other month, every 6 to 8 weeks ish. And so the model is absolutely proven out. And the question is, how much of the market share can you guys grab, and how big of a market do you guys want, and how are you going to consolidate it, and then find the partners on the back end. And also partnering with junk removal companies or whomever to make sure you have a constant feedstock. That's the challenge in the waste industry, is you don't get to choose your feedstock, right? When you're a manufacturer, you're like, hey, we're going to make these toys, let's say, right? You're a toy manufacturer. You're like, hey, we're going to test these products. We're going to make a shitload of these toys. We're going to market them. We're going to sell them to consumers. And the risk you take is people buying them. One of the risks we have in our industry is, how do we get the product in the first place? Because you can't, right? Like mining for clothes isn't a thing. You have to develop the partnerships on the front end. And that's why it's so important that you guys are here, because the guys and gals that are in the junk removal industry often are very transactional. They're like, I pick up thing here, I take it there. I take it from a house to a landfill. That's the business I'm in. And it's like, well, no, fuck you. You're not. You are in the business of moving product from one place to the other. And you should challenge yourself, or not should, fuck that, should's a shit word. You have the ability, and I will challenge you to be more environmentally conscious, because you have more access to more material than anybody else.
Right.
And when you do it right, if you can make clothing recycling cash flow neutral, that beats the shit out of paying for disposal fees.
Well,
it's a long game.
That we propose, like when we work with municipalities, is it is a cash generating contract with them, which they're not used to. They're like, what? They're, we pay them, a couple cents a pound, but the bigger win is that they're not paying to put those clothes in the trash, and the tipping fees are high. So it's really like, that's the savings, right?
Even if someone's paying a penny a pound, right, and it costs 5 cents a pound in the landfill, right? It's a 4 cent delta, and again, 4 cents is a huge deal when it comes to thousands of pounds that you take potentially to the landfill.
And it would be the same with a junk removal company, right? If they're the ones taking it to the landfill, it's like, okay, well then don't pay that dump fee.
Correct. And what you end up doing is you end up spending more money on storage, because you have to have some level of storage, whether it's scrap or clothing or cardboard or whatever the product line is, the material, and you spend more money on sorting. And I look at it that way as like, okay, you spend more money. Well, that's money you're investing in your employees to give them more hours so they can live a better life. Would you rather give your employees more money to spend an hour sorting, or spend another $20 in the landfill? That, let me tell you something, WM and their shareholders are going to do plenty fine without your $20 extra a week that you might be paying your guy to sort material for an hour or two a week. And that, that 20, 30, 40 bucks in the community goes a lot farther than 20, 30 bucks going to a major corporation. Again, this is, I am team small business. I am team the environment. And there's a way to do it that makes mathematical sense. So let me talk about your process, because that's what's most interesting to me. So hi, my name is Andy. I have a junk removal company. I give you my 15 bags minimum of clothes. Do you guys take clothes, linens, purses, belts, shoes,
textiles, shoes, accessories,
pillows.
And if you're a junk removal company and this is going to be an ongoing relationship, I would recommend we figure out what volume you're dealing with, right? And then what collection method makes the most sense. Is that bins? Is it rolling carts? Is it gaylords? Is it big enough that you have a trailer and we're going to fill it?
So let's run this scenario. So this is me, and I know my loads for the most part. So typically when I send out 8 loads, I have 6 gaylords of clothes. So it's clothes, textiles, sheets, bedding, things like that mixed. Yep. I have 1 gaylord of shoes. Do you guys do shoes and boots?
Yep.
Okay, 1 gaylord of shoes or boots. And then not always I will have a gaylord of belts, purses, hats, luggagey type stuff. We started throwing luggage in there, some types of luggage, and they can take some and not all of it. So we're still learning that. Okay. So if I send you out those 8 gaylords, what happens next?
Great question. Okay, so we would pick up the stuff, and we have a couple of, depending on where it is what would happen. But if we are planning to sort it, it would end up in our New Jersey warehouse. If it's going to be, kind of just depends on the quality of what the stuff is. If it's going to be baled and sold in bulk, then that includes the shoes and belts, and if sometimes we do bricka and we have bars for luggage, it'll probably just end up in the warehouse that's the closest to it. So that would be either Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. Could be a depot in Maryland or Virginia. And then just basically we kind of test out when we have a new supply. We test out by sorting it and see how kind of profitable it is to put the labor in sorting it. And this where just the team comes in.
Yeah, we have a tech team that developed a sorting app based off of the resale knowledge that a lot of people on my team had, and Lisa's really smart numbers brain. So we capture about 3 attributes on every item that goes to the sort, which is typically brand, condition, and gender of the garment. And then based on our historical sales data, the app will tell our sorter which bucket to put that item in, that we know it'll have the best chance at reuse when we put it back into the secondary market. So our customers are typically thrift stores, resale stores, consignment stores, and then individual resellers that further sell on marketplace shops.
So you guys don't sell direct to consumer?
We do not.
So you're selling wholesale. So you're selling wholesale only, which I will say I think is smart. Mm-hmm. Some may argue and say, hey, you're leaving money on the table. You might be.
We're happy to pass that margin along to the person that wants to go D2C because
it's a different business, right? Typically you can only, and this is what I argue, and I had a resale shop for years. I fucking hated it because it was a completely different market. People that wanted to resale and that.
Well, the trick is
it's different than logistics.
It has to be automated.
Yes.
That was a big thing for you. You got a lot of volume in, and it actually took out, I think, from the outside looking in your warehouse, it almost got in the way of your operations
100%.
Because it was so big.
Yes.
Interesting. Yeah.
It was so big. It took employees and it took all this infrastructure, and it ended up representing 4% of my total revenue and 50% of my headaches. And that ain't good math.
For us, we actually outsourced. We had an auction company come in, and we made a deal with them where they did all of the hands-on stuff. As far as when we bring it in, they would sort it. They would take pictures of it. They would list it to their client, you name it. So if we wanted to go in and sell stuff, that'd be different. But what's interesting is the resale was completely different. I sold more of your everyday household items than clothing. And the clothing I sold, the biggest sellers, this is going to sound weird, I don't give a fuck, was ladies' garments, undergarments. Yeah. So if I had a lot of those, I could sell them in bulk for a premium, and they would sell panties, bras, you name it. And
no for me, dog.
Guess what? Money is money, even if it's coming from a repo. And it was weird, but this guy came in, and I had a bale of clothing that was going to go to rags. It was a bale of it. And he's like, all right, well, maybe I'll buy one. He bought one bale. And then he was leaving, and he was like, hey, do you happen to have any women's underwear? And I'm like on me? Like, what do you mean? He goes, no, like, do you get it all the time? I'm like, I think so. I mean, I don't know. You can go diving in those clothes if you want. Sure enough, he's like, well, I'll tell you this. You get me one of the containers full of women's underwear, I'll buy it from you. You name your price. And I was like,
what was the price?
Deal. It was like $800. I didn't give a shit, though. I have no shame because I was like, look, this was going to go either to the trash or maybe this guy's wall. I don't know, but he paid for it.
Oh, man. So we kind of like test out by sorting it, and we capture all this data, and that really determines what happens to it. Like what is the, its condition. And
well, kids clothing also is a huge market. And that's the other thing is some of these companies out there, I try to tell, Andy gets these calls all the time. We all do. And I try to say, look, if you can just store a little bit here and there, doesn't have to be a whole warehouse full like us, but maybe you have a container or a trash can full of very nice new looking kids clothes, or, hey, these brand new blazers or something that was barely used. Just keep them because there's a lot of programs that need suits or dress attire for their nonprofit, right? For their people
to work or whatever.
Exactly. Out they're hey, they just got out of prison thing, give them a chance kind of thing, whatever. But the kids clothing is huge because they'll say, hey, look, do you have kids clothing from, 1T or 2T to 6 or whatever? And if you do, they'll say, hey, keep it coming because they probably have a resale shop and maybe they're hurting for that. So this is how you meet other businesses, other small businesses, or like this case, this is a bigger business, right? Your companies are way bigger than I've ever actually dealt with on a day-to-day basis, I think, as far as the resale goes, right? But it's something that it has to start somewhere. And a lot of these people unintentionally, they throw everything away because at first it's easy. I pick up at point A and I throw it away and it's gone.
Like your conscience has to catch up to you. Like if you're throwing away perfectly good things, like it has to catch up to you. Well,
yeah.
I would say maybe 30% of people in this business are conscience heavy. The rest of them probably are in it for either the Facebook videos I see, I can make a quick buck, or B, they just pick up trash. They don't really care where it goes. Unfortunately, that's just how it is.
Well, that was the majority of the people that we were speaking to at the conference.
Right.
About, they have no concept, nor do they care to have a concept of what it is that they're picking up. And I don't know how we can have this conversation on here, considering that all four of us are at the end of the food chain. And we're all here because there's a massive overconsumption problem that we have.
It's all about information. And that's the thing. So everybody, it's all about being informed the right way.
Yeah.
And when, this conference, I was telling Andy this. I was like, this conference was something that my first year, 2, maybe even 3rd year in business, I probably wouldn't have came to it. I think it would have been very irrelevant to what I was doing. It would have gone way over my head. I didn't have the business mindset that could facilitate all the shit that we were soaking up at that conference. But now, Andy, myself, seeing his operation, he's seen mine, knowing the people and the things that we've done when we go to those kind of conferences, we think outside the box. But at the same time, a lot of these companies that were there, if they're a trash compactor, that's all they care about. If they're like, hey, I compact trash, and then I go dump it in the landfill. I don't care what's in it. My job is to take it from here and put it over there. So it's like, okay, well, how do we get to where it starts before it gets to the middleman and then to the landfill, right? And it's just information, knowledge.
Well, yeah, and internally we talk all the time. Whose responsibility is it to start to minimize at least textile waste in our world? Is it the brand? Is it the manufacturers? Is it the consumer? And what we're seeing in our industry is that there's so many companies that are coming out with software and tech to help be part of this secondary ecosystem, but someone has to handle the product. PayPal just bought Happy Returns, and there's, other software out there. And we're finding that, no one is touching the product anymore. So we're kind of in this niche where
sweet spot.
We'll touch the product.
Yeah. Well, and the opportunity we have here is that we're not waiting for the government regulation, and that junk removal companies make these partnerships now. And the challenge with the industry, the challenge with the conference we're at is the name of it, right? It's the Waste Expo. right? And so you're saying we're at the bottom of the food chain. We're not at the bottom of the food chain.
Well, we could
Our opportunity
in the middle, or
correct,
right?
correct. Higher up, the higher up is called the waste stream. We have to get higher up on the waste stream before it enters into the conscious of the landfill operators and the haulers of the world, right? And so the way we do that is by consumer demand. Because and the way we get out in front of that is by explaining and showing to our consumers that we do different. I talk about this in my business. Most junk removal companies get the same Isuzu 4500 14.3 cubic yard dump truck. That is the industry standard. And there's another one that's a 17.8 or 17, whatever. It ends up being 18 cubic yard. I run 24-foot box trucks with lift gates. Those are the last two trucks I bought. We went from a truck and trailer, an open truck, and utility or pickup truck and utility trailer, you to walk material in and take it out by hand. We went from that to enclosed trailers, then to box trucks, 18-foot box trucks with ramps, to now 24-foot trucks with lift gates, because we look at ours as logistics companies, right? We're the frontline recyclers. We're logistics companies for products that are otherwise seen as end of life, and our goal is to find someone that doesn't consider them end of life.
Well,
so
Andy,
when I went to the other conference this year, the Reverse Logistics Association conference, and that's all they talk about. They don't even talk about waste. So that's the challenge. Our challenge is to get people that are doing junk removal or traditional waste services to start looking at them as reverse logistics in the waste industry. And again, it's a nuance ago. We had a couple months ago, we had why can't I think of his name? But we had a couple, John Seiko from Sierra Environmental. Or Sierra Industrial, great guy. Saw him at the Waste Conference again, took a great picture with him. He's got a podcast out there, and he also has a series out there, a TV series where he talks about what happens to the products, right? And he said the first thing we got to do is we got to stop calling it a scrapyard. It's a metal recycling facility. We got to stop talking about it as waste. These negative connotation words, right? And so it's product that's at end of life. Well, what do we do something when it's at end of life? Well, we got to give it new life. We got to give it new purpose. And so that's the opportunity. So an opportunity then too is to say junk removal companies, right, financially advantageous. Hey, when you choose to recycle, reuse, repurpose, you will lower your disposal cost. And then how y'all make the donuts on the back end, no one gives two hoots about. Like I said, I don't give a shit if you use a software. All I know is you're giving me pennies on the pound versus paying pennies on the pound. Good, done.
Well, and that's the thing. So the junk removal company, the junk removal industry, you really are at the very top of the waste stream, because you're dealing daily with
someone's house.
Yeah, you're dealing with the consumer. So it's actually not a loud far cry for a junk removal company to get the right information from a company like y'all and be like, hey, thank you for your business, blah, blah, blah. When they leave them a receipt or a postcard, they also leave this little information nugget or whatever about, hey, a did you know type thing. Did you know?
Surprising. Like, did you know? Like, take a guess. I don't know if you know the figure. How many pounds per person per year get discarded of clothing?
A lot.
15. I'd say 15 pounds per person per year. What is it?
No, 100.
I know it's 115 pounds of clothing.
And 85% of it ends up in the literal trash incinerator landfill.
Wow. I believe that. And that's the thing.
That's the pamphlet you leave. Is like, did you know? It literally ends in the landfill.
Well, and it has to have but also has to have a follow-up. Like, okay, did you know this fact? And then it's like, cool, call us. Call us.
Yeah.
Call to action.
And,
call to
that's
action.
how you fix it.
Yeah, and that's the partnerships. The other thing is I did the exact same thing with mattresses. So I found a way to recycle and actually make money off of used mattresses. So what I would do is I would do research, get some statistics together. Damn, I sound like that guy off of Fun with Dick and Jane. But I would get stats together, and I found that every year the U.S. throws away 40 million mattresses every year.
50,000 a day.
So if you think about that, and let's just say the average mattress is, I think it was a full or whatever, and you line them up in a line, it'll circle the globe almost exactly twice. And then you think, okay, what do we do with our mattresses? Oh, we throw them in the landfill. That's 40 million in the landfill, not 40 million total. That's 40 million that hit the landfill. Now, the square footage and the actual surface area that those things cover is insane. Now you factor in the biodegradable. It takes 1,000 years or so. So it's actually kind of sickening when you're like, holy shit, this is going to be there way after my grandkids, right? So if you put those kind of facts out there and say, hey, look, mattresses, they don't just go away. Yeah, you can bury them, but they're going to be there a while. But if you give the mattresses to me, I can take care of them to where they'll get recycled. And so this company I was using that I did business with, for every king size mattress they got, they made 2 twins. One twin mattress that they would make went to a shelter. The other twin went to retail. So that was a pretty cool marketing. I guess you could say I use that with marketing as well, but it's also a really cool mission that they were doing. Mm-hmm. So that's the thing. You have to carry along that message, and you have to say, hey, we are on a mission to change the norm. And right now the norm is 115 pounds per person, is just way too much. So how can you help us change that, or how can we help you change it? And that's the message we have to give to them.
The education of the public, I think, is what's next, right? It's pretty much the norm now to think about glass, aluminum, paper recycling, but not necessarily mattresses and textiles. And I just wanted to add, mattresses were also on the list of banned materials in Massachusetts. So, another shout out
Massachusetts.
Oh man!
Shout out Massachusetts. It's like one of the handful of states I've never been to.
I was born here, and then I'm like circling back in this.
So are you in Massachusetts right now?
I'm in Massachusetts right now. Yeah, I'm about 5 minutes from our warehouse. So we have a open house event tomorrow that we're really excited to host for a lot of like our municipal partnerships.
So let's talk about that.
Well,
go. All right, Jessica, you got the floor. The floor acknowledges Jessica.
The other interesting thing that we're seeing is that brands, some of them, are showing interest in buying back either our data or their own product of wanting to know. So Nike wants to know how many Nike units we're finding in our collection bins in certain regions so that they can do their market research and their R&D on what products people are throwing away, when, where, and why. So that's another portion of this industry that I think we will join forces with to tackle this problem.
I love that idea. It's kind of like what Elon Musk talks about, right? Elon Musk and Tesla, the argument here is it's not a car company. It's a company that's mapping the roads of the United States to sell that information, right? It's a technology company. That's ultimately what it's doing, right? And it's no different than Uber. Uber's not a taxi company. It's an IT company, right? They're IT. They don't own a single taxi cab, right? And what are they doing? They're also collecting data constantly and putting people to work, right? So you have these decentralized, right? We talked about this at the top of the program. You have these decentralized industries where technology, right, and information that used to be withheld and held tight, or like taxi cabs, right? It was regulatory. You had to have a license. In order to get a license, you had to do the test, and you had to. Now you have a car and a cell phone, and you're a fucking cab driver for all intents and purposes, because information, right? The technology drove who's my consumer? Well, it pops up. You don't have to have a phone number. You don't have to have good branding or advertising or know somebody that knows somebody. All you gotta do is have a phone and says, hey, you're gonna go pick up Lisa on this corner because she has to go back to the airport. That's it. That was the information. Who's gonna pay, right? The critical information of why everybody couldn't be a taxi cab driver was, who's gonna pay me to drive them somewhere?
Who's gonna find me? Yeah.
Right. And so technology bridged the gap. And I find that very interesting. And again, everyone that listens to this program knows that I love me some data, right? Because we make data-driven decisions. And that's one of many things that I learned while working for big waste companies like Waste Management, for example, or even UPS, right? Which is a logistics company, which I compare a lot of what we do to UPS, because they ultimately look at the data, and there's only so much data you can control on the one end. So Nike knows where they sell the shoes. And yet what you're saying I love is they have no concept of how long do people wear the shoes? When do they get rid of them? I love it. I watch YouTube videos all the time about people going to thrift stores and picking up old Air Force, or Air Max 1s or the old Jordans. And those guys know it. The resale guys know it. And now you're doing it to scale. And when you provide that information back to the big companies, they're not going to have a team that does what you do. They'll hire you and pay the shit out of you to do this, and or maybe have you as the exclusive partner to bring back your Nike. So then individual consumers might ship you their Nikes. They get the $15 credit towards the next pair of kicks, right? And you get $10. You ship back them Nikes, and Nike puts them and sells them for $150 because it's a collector's yada yada, right? Because what you said is you have the infrastructure. That's the key: the infrastructure and the information. And junk removal companies, right, goes back. You got to track what you're doing. I love what you guys are saying. Track it. I'm not saying someone's going to buy your data someday. However, it's going to make you more combat effective every day you do your job. And when an employee leaves, they don't take all this information with them because you've tracked the data. You use the human people to collect the data, figure out what sells, and then you get to keep that intellectual property when you put the processes in place.
Mm-hmm.
Mic drop.
God, I'm fucking excited. No, I'm just like, this is what I get excited about, right? Like often on this program, we talk about how to be more profitable in the junk removal business, and I can do that. Actually, we're gonna have an episode coming up. Casey doesn't even know about it. What not to fucking do? Teaser for you because I recently hired.
Don't throw out your clothes.
Oh no! I recently hired a junk removal company in a region of the country that I don't service often, and let's say I have a whole episode of information of what not to fucking do.
Got it.
So anyways, a lot of what we talk about is the tactical front end. Louisville. I'm not gonna say who. Because
why not?
Because it doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah, no, I'm just curious. You can just text me later.
I know, I will.
I am curious.
No, I won't text you. Hold on, I will not text you later that information, Casey, because then you're going to drop the name on the podcast.
No.
Oh yeah, that mother.
No.
50-50.
Only person I actually want everybody to understand that I truly despise is Biden. That's it. That's really it. Everybody else I can probably work with at some point or another. I can get along with.
What about Jerry Flanagan? What about Jerry Flanagan over the guy who likes to touch girls over at J-Dog? That guy. No, that's the guy I despise. I forgot.
Yeah, I despise him too.
Anyways, I used to tell
he's
that
actually
joke.
Out of my life now, right? So it's like,
yeah. What, Biden's fucking texting you every morning? What's the issue there? Is he in your life?
He just gives me the willies, dude. You know, I mean, it just sucks. Like we used to be a country that was like, hey, we have a pretty cool government, really. Yeah, we can take on anybody. Now it's like, hey, look at those guys over there. Like we're the frat boys of the world. That's what we are, right? That's what we are. We're the frat boys. Anyways, we won't get into politics because someone's still a government worker.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, Casey over there. Is that Bud Light you're drinking? Talking about frat boy beer?
This is Yuengling.
I know. I saw.
Okay, fun fact about Yuengling. When you were talking about the prohibition, did you know that they made ice cream? That's actually
how they got started.
Yeah, that's how. No, I think that's how they survived.
That's how they got started into the bigger realm because they almost went under because of what, prohibition?
Yeah, and
that's what she said. That's what she said.
I'm saying, but that's how Yuengling was just like a family beer. They weren't trying to go big, but their ice cream.
They survived prohibition. Yeah. They switched to ice cream, and it
like shot them up.
Yeah, so they switched to ice cream, and I know that because I went to the brewery and I did a little tour.
Well, that'd be cool.
About the ice cream, and I actually saw the ice cream at like a grocery store kind of recently, so I think they still do it.
Yeah, I'm drinking beer. Absolutely.
Are you in Texas right now or Florida?
No, I'm in Florida, dude. Look, hold on a second. The water's like right here. Hold on. I can barely see through the trees.
Yeah, must be. I mean,
it is
I just saw the last
50 degrees and dreary in Massachusetts.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's really
cool. Oh my gosh, it's like 89 here.
Yeah, that's how it was in Maryland when I left it in the 80s.
I try to stay in Florida as much as I can when I'm not in Texas.
Yeah. There you go.
Lisa, what did you want to know from Casey?
I wanted to know mattresses. So we get a lot of mattresses through our collections, and we always try to find an outlet for things that aren't the trash. We have one in Massachusetts because there are enough companies now like trying to do something with mattresses, but always looking for names of people that take mattresses and recycle them. So I'm curious.
Well, so the one I use, I will say, so I think it's very regional because I know Andy has a guy too, but it's in Chicago, and then my guy is in Dallas, and the farthest they go is Oklahoma City and then Shreveport. So it's very regional, and I think it's because there's not much money in used mattresses, honestly. And
unless they're like stuffed in there. The money.
Yeah, I think because the names have changed a couple times, the ownership's changed a couple times, but the facility, it's pretty cool to go to. If you ever get a chance to go tour one of these very niche recycling centers, do it. Like this one was really cool because
I love that.
Like we would drive up, and this is when I learned that it's better to go in bulk. Because the first time I had a box truck, we showed up, and right when we got out of the truck, like their guys were opening up the back, and they just start unloading. And we're like, wait a minute. Like, we don't have to bring two guys? Hell yeah. But they went through stations, and it was like, hey, this is the stripping station. This is the metal and wood station, right? If there's any plastic or dunnage, it goes over here. if the fabric has
that's
just
so cool.
way too bad, it goes over here, and it was really cool. But they had everything in house, so even the sterilization process, it was on the other side of the facility.
Mm-hmm.
And then whenever they would sterilize it, it would go to packaging. It was like the next step, and then packaging would get taken to the other big warehouse, and then it would go out from there. So it's really cool. But I would assume, just based on how it looked, that it's probably not the most lucrative business. So maybe that's why they keep it regional.
Yeah,
it's very so it's very, very tight margins in mattress recycling, and most of them they survive on subsidies.
Yeah.
So like that's why we take it down to Illinois, because it is cash flow negative to recycle mattresses.
They would only give us like $5 a unit after we had 10 units, and that was like a mattress and box spring.
I mean, just they gave them away for free, just to.
Yeah, no.
Oh yeah.
So our company here in the Midwest in Illinois, we get nothing per mattress, and I got to drive them 90 minutes one way. And typically now we have two choices: either we wait for them to unload, which we're not always a priority, because they unload them into trailers and they use the trailers as their overflow storage, or we send. So what we do now recently is we send 2 trucks down, 2 24-foot trucks loaded with mattresses. It's between like 60 and 75 mattresses per truck, depending on the size of the mattresses. And that takes my guys like an hour to unload them. When I've done all the hillbilly math there is, it ends up costing us like $50 more to do that than it would be to take them to the landfill.
Oh, absolutely.
And we also have space to store it. So it costs us more money, and yet, but what I like about it is, to your point, you were talking about tours of facilities, right? You were talking about touring. Well, Yingling, I guess, kind of counts because it's awesome. But the other people that tour the mattresses, like you've done mattresses. Jessica, when you were in New Orleans, did you tour the glass recycling facility they have down there?
No, I wasn't invited.
Me neither.
You weren't invited. You just show up. You just go there. I went there. I was there for electronics waste conference and just showed up one day.
Oh, so it wasn't this past time.
Lisa and I are going
to. But at the Waste Expo they did two. No, at Waste Expo they had designated tours to go there. It's called Glass Half Full.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And
Casey knows I love going to scrapyards whenever I'm anywhere.
I was telling him, I was like, dude, go to the port, because the big scrapyards are on the port. They're about to get shipped overseas. That's cool shit.
I know.
And so, real quick, Andy,
I really want to go.
I want to tell you this. So, Andy, you told me your side of the mattress recycling, right? So here's a big factor on why I think it's very regional down south. So they don't just pay us $5 a unit, right? They also pick up. So we had containers in our yard, and we would stuff them full of mattresses. And when they're full, give them a call. They come out with a box truck. So on the flip side, if you look at how they're doing things, and obviously we don't know their books, that's probably not the smartest way of doing that kind of business, because the labor and time alone involved just to go get your product that you have to manually do all that shit to and then resell it. Plus, you're also giving half the king mattresses away. I mean, it's one of those things where I'm sure that if they really, maybe a bigger company came in and said, hey, we're going to be your partner in this and we'll really blow it up. But it's very niche, right? It's just mattresses. They don't mess with clothing. They don't mess with shoes. It's just mattresses.
All right. So before I forget, let's do this. There is shout out TDS, Texas Disposal Systems, maybe. I'm looking for their card. Met those cats. Met the founder, Bobby. Here we go. That's card right here. Nope, that's not him. That's Sierra. It was Sierra I was talking about earlier with man. All right, I have his card somewhere. Oh, there it is. Texas Disposal. Ryan Hobbs is the sales guy. Texas Disposal Systems. Austin, Texas. Or they're P.O. Box Austin. They're in Kyle, Texas. Let me tell you something. They have a concrete recycling facility or construction debris recycling facility. They have a metal recycling facility. They have a landfill. And they have a nature preserve. And they said, or the Bobby, the CEO, he saw me speak at Waste Expo, had a great conversation with him afterwards. Cool dude. Anyways, he said we can come down anytime, tour the facility, and shoot videos. That is what we need to do.
What kind of videos?
Full on field trip. Scrapping videos, Casey. Keep it clean.
Oh, okay. It's probably talking about
tattoo.
For
those of you listening in your car right now, Casey is rocking a tank top. And I've known Casey for years. I did not know that he had a barbed wire tattoo on his arm.
Yeah, it's almost covered up. It was like my second tattoo ever. Yeah.
It's a slowly cover-up job.
Yeah.
Lisa is sitting in what looks to be a hotel or apartment.
Right. Hotel.
She hotel. Yeah. And Jessica has had someone walk behind her a few times, and that scares me.
She's in the waiting room.
I'm in a warehouse. I'm in our warehouse.
That does not look. Your warehouse
That's
says
an office.
that's not a warehouse. That office in the warehouse. I'm not in the warehouse. If you want to see a warehouse, I'm gonna have Taylor, the producer, grab the camera. We'll go downstairs and down and dirty warehouse. Let me tell you something. Anyway, so now all the people
actually,
because most of our listeners listen only. And Casey, shout out. We don't have any. Jobber's always taking care of us. We'll give a shout out to Jobber. Otherwise, whatever hat Casey's wearing is our sponsor of the week, Meat Church. Meat Church in Texas, proud sponsors of the show. They give Casey all the meat he can handle whenever he wants it. Speaking of shooting videos down there in Austin, keep it weird, Texas. There we go. There's your plug. There's your unnecessary, unpaid plug of the day.
Yeah.
CEO and I will be in Texas in the end of June for
what dates?
June 23rd.
Hold on. Texas is a big place. Where in Texas?
Houston.
Here's the deal here's what I know about Texas. You can be in Texas.
Yes.
You can drive for an entire day, and you're still in Texas.
Right.
Yep. 14 hours from side to side.
That's why I made that drive from Shreveport, Louisiana, to Santa Fe, New Mexico. Yeah. Anyways, I used to be a tour manager in a band, and so that's how I fell in love with Dallas. Huge fan of Dallas, and they have a green building there. Yeah, and what is that place? Deep Elm. It was like 10 years ago, and it was still cool.
Well, that's such a great place. They revitalized it, man. It's badass. So I actually drove to Florida. So I'm in Pensacola right now, and it was about 12-hour drive. Still shorter than if you were to drive from one side to the other in Texas.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Virginia is a big state, but not that big. I was surprised to learn that you could drive 6 hours and still be in Virginia. Did you know that? It's not 14 in Texas, but 6 hours for Virginia.
Wisconsin, if you drive in circles a lot, you might do that.
7 hours. So I would say because it's about 5 hours from where I'm at.
It does go way up north.
Yeah. We're Lake Superior's big ass lake up there.
It is. It's a big lake.
You can put in your city of Canada.
Yeah, you share it with Canada. Man. It's just weird.
And Minnesota, and the UP. A lot of weirdness going on in Wisconsin.
Well,
I know it's 14 hours to drive from Mount Rushmore to Wisconsin because I drove that yesterday.
I'll be there in September.
Fan. Shout out South Dakota. Huge fan of South Dakota.
Another great sponsor.
Yeah, shouts. Here's the deal. Okay, hold on. Here's the deal. All right. So I go to a lot of conferences. I met Jessica at a conference, right?
Mm-hmm.
The three main places I go to conferences are New Orleans, Las Vegas, and Orlando, and I've been to all three over the last month or so. Okay, so those conferences, or those areas that have conferences, are super touristy. And they are surfacey nice. They're good people. It's hospitality. Like, they're good people. But especially like Vegas, right? It's they're there to get paid. Let me tell you something about South Dakota. They're nice people, and they're Midwest nice. They appreciate you showing up. It's like, it's touristy, but and not. Sioux Falls. Turns out they have a waterfall there. Never knew that. Beautiful. The people are the nicest. They'll sit there and talk to you forever. So shout out, South Dakota. So all those commercials that say like South Dakota is the place to be, they're not wrong.
They're not
Took
wrong.
my daughter, 9 years old. We did Mount Rushmore. I rode a horse 2 days ago. It was terrible. I don't like horses. I grew up in and around horses. Doesn't do it for me. Some people, like, that's their thing. If you're a horseback riding person, God bless. Let me tell you something. I rode 1 hour on a horse on Saturday, and I drove 14 hours on Sunday. Sore cheeks, right?
Oh yeah.
I'm a tall, skinny white kid.
Legitimately butthurt.
Baby ain't got back. Okay, that's all I gotta say about riding horses. But you know what? Got a great picture out of it. Great stories with my daughter. Shout out South Dakota. We're giving everybody plugs. So Ken wants to shout out Ken Oliver, president of Camel Crew Junk Removal, proud sponsor of the show, and by that he means he lets me go on here for about an hour a week when he's not harassing me and figuring out how to run our company, because I still run a junk removal company every day, and that's That's part of the gig. It's part of what I do. So I'm in the fight every day, day in and day out.
I'm a bad business person because I didn't bring my laptop charger to work today, so my laptop is about to die.
Hey, so is mine. It's okay though.
It's a common thing.
We're 27 minutes into the show, and you got to bounce. We're only getting started. 27 minutes in.
Look, they're confused as shit.
Why is my clock says 27 minutes in, but we're an hour in, aren't we?
Dude, we're an hour in. I think you just started recording. Oh, I just started recording 27 minutes ago.
Fair enough. I was wondering. I was like, man, I felt like we've been on here for a while. I looked at the clock. It says 27 minutes.
Did it not record?
Well, I don't know what happened.
Oh my God.
Okay, there we go. Taylor on the other side of the wall was like, no, we're recording. Good. See, there we go. That's all I know. Because I looked down on the left here and it says 28 minutes and 14 seconds. I was like, man, I feel like we covered a lot.
Yeah, we did cover a lot for 28 minutes.
I was like, 27 minutes. I'm over here checking my phone.
See?
Like, what the fuck?
See, Taylor?
I drank 2 beers quick.
Yeah, I don't know bad numbers, but
Taylor says we're good. All right, on Taylor's computer, the main hub, we're good. All right, well, in that case, let's put a bow on this. Jessica's jacked up. I guess she's in. Here's the deal. Here's the beautiful thing about my life. It's like if I forgot my cell phone charger or my laptop charger, I go downstairs and I go find one in a bin. It'd be like if you forgot.
Ooh,
like
that's
if you forgot,
a fun treasure hunt.
100%.
It's all treasure.
Or a shawl.
Like if you forgot to pick one out. Yeah, like if you forgot to wear a shirt today, they got you covered. So sometimes that happens. Sometimes you go to concerts.
I found the best thing yesterday. So I was going through the trash yesterday.
As we all do at some point in the day.
Oh, you can't see it that
Yeah, what does it say? I can see it. Yeah, what does it say on there?
It's a fish. You see the fish?
It's a fish.
Oh, the fish. I was looking at your sweatshirt. I wasn't looking at this fish.
No. Look at the fish.
I wasn't looking at what was the name of that fish?
But that's
a
shoe.
The bass fish.
That fish is a shoe.
Oh, that's a shoe? Is that a shoe or a sandal?
It's a sandal.
All right, do you have a pair?
No. I tried really hard to find the other one. I went through the entire thing of trash. It started with a plant.
Was it Billy the Bass? What was that? Billy the Bass? Wally the Walleye?
But I think I'm going to take that shoe and hang it in my
Bobby
office.
the Bass?
It's like a trophy.
You should.
I think I have a thing with finding shoes because my most memorable finds either in trash or bins are shoes.
Hey, so this is a fact.
Never enough
the
shoes.
First 4 years. So real quick, my story for junk removal is completely different than Andy's. But I started my journey with my mom. I had to move into her house. I was in a really bad place in life. But what's funny is after I moved out of her house into my first apartment, from then on, like the next 3 to 4 years, everything in my apartment or house, all the furniture, all free from jobs.
For free.
Like,
yeah, people give away, like, get rid of.
Yeah.
Great.
No shit. And I made sure it was clean.
Yeah, you gotta clean, but you can usually clean something.
Yeah.
And then.
Yeah. Right. So go through the trash.
Yeah, go through
right,
the
let's
trash.
go around
All right, we can end on that note. I think that's a good spot.
We'll go around the horn here. Top takeaway from today. Jessica, before I forget, I did end up sticking in New Orleans through the weekend and went to Jazz Fest.
Oh, I know. I saw Mumford & Sons.
So I saw Avett Brothers, Lumineers, Mumford & Sons. That was my Friday, Saturday, Sunday. No big deal. You could have stuck around.
Did they?
You could have stuck around.
Did they sing "There Will Be Time"?
Oh yeah. I think. Yeah, that's actually. I think that might have been the song they came back on the encore with.
Nice.
Yes.
All right, takeaway. Go ahead.
All right, Jessica, top takeaway. You're on the clock. Because your phone's about to die.
Top takeaway is 2 things. One, Lisa and I need to go to Waste 360 next year so we can keep meeting cool people. And 2, mattresses. I think it may be a niche that we're not in that we should get in.
You should.
Well, I like
so
it. Lisa, top.
I can get y'all to Dallas. At least their contact, and maybe y'all can do something with that.
Yeah, just curious. Yeah, because they might know other people. I think you're right. I think it makes sense for it to be localized, but. Yeah, I think my takeaway, having not been to the conference, was really that idea of thinking about like all the people who are kind of on the front lines of trash removal and junk removal, and really like educating them to really think about diverting textiles and diverting waste in general. So
Casey, top takeaway.
My top takeaway is stop being so fucking wasteful. I mean, there's a good place for everything. And as we've all said it many, many times, if I can recycle a nasty ass crackhead mattress, then the clothes you throw out or the electronics you throw out, it could all be reused. It could all be given to someone else. And look, right now we are in the shittiest point in American history with our dumbass president. So the least you can do is try to take care of humanity by not being a wasteful son of a bitch. Takeaway. There you go.
There we go. Casey gets twitchy after an hour and 2 beers. So there we go.
Literally. It's like exactly.
Yeah, no. Top takeaway, be intentional. And the key, there you go. She fell off. Jessica, we knew she was going to fall off.
Oh,
I was
Peter died.
just waiting.
There you go.
Yep. Yeah. Are you about to die too there, Bubba?
No, man.
Jessica,
I prepped.
You're good. Prepped. No, be intentional, because one thing that she said was, hey, we're at the bottom of the food chain. It's like, no. When you're intentional and you go make the right partnerships, you can choose where you are in the waste stream. And then the goal is, like you said, education. Education is the key, because when people know, the biggest challenge that we've seen, or the biggest thing I see on all the junk world forums, is it's a lack of knowledge. And so when that information is readily available, most people that want to run a long-term sustainable business will develop the best practices over time. They're not going to do it all at once. So for our listeners, my challenge to you is find one product line you can recycle, repurpose, reuse, spend 90 days developing the processes, weave it into the fabric of your business, and then the next quarter, figure out the next one. Don't try to take on 10 things at once. So whether it's metal recycling, clothing, mattresses, figure that out. Reach out to people like Lisa and Jessica that are going to be your end state users that do want that material that has a next life, and they'll find the best place for it. So thank you to Lisa. We'll give a shout out to Jessica. Thanking her for her time today. This has been another amazing episode of the Trash Talk Business Podcast. We'll be back next week, and we'll talk about something else. See you next week.